I talk to people across the GTA every single week, and right now I'm hearing three completely different versions of the same story. There's the renter who's been watching the market for 2 years and still cannot decide whether now is the right time to buy. Then there's the first time buyer who is pre-approved but keeps hesitating, not sure if they're making the right call. And then there's the existing homeowner who has outgrown their current place, the family has grown, the space doesn't work anymore, and they are wondering whether upsizing right now is smart or a mistake they will regret. My name is Gaurav, I am a realtor and finance educator in the GTA, and today I want to answer that question clearly for all three of these people with real numbers and two free tools in the description so you can model your own situation and arrive at a real answer. Let's get into it. Now, before we go scenario by scenario, I want to reframe how you're thinking about this because most people approach it the wrong way. They Google something like rent versus buy 2026 and get either a doom headline or a motivational post. Both are useless because the right answer does not come from a headline. It comes from three things specific to you: your financial stability right now, where your life is actually headed to in the next 7 to 10 years, and what the math looks like when you plug in your income, your down payment or equity, and the specific type of property you're actually trying to buy. When you change any one of those three, the right answer changes with it, and that's the lens we are going to use for each scenario. Renting is not automatically a bad financial decision, and I want to be clear about that upfront. But it carries a hidden cost that most people never calculate honestly. Renting only makes financial sense if you're consistently investing the difference between your monthly rent and what a comparable mortgage would cost you, and doing that every single month without exception for 15 or 20 years. Most people intend to do that, but most people don't actually follow through for the long run because life happens. A family expense comes up, the market drops and shakes your confidence, or 1 year something else feels more urgent. The moment that consistency breaks, the financial case for renting weakens significantly because the equity you would have been building in a property simply isn't being built elsewhere. Now, renting still makes sense if your income isn't stable enough to genuinely stress test a mortgage payment, if your geography isn't settled because a job change could realistically move you within a few years, or if your down payment isn't in place yet and forcing it would drain your entire financial buffer. Those are real reasons to wait, and they are worth taking seriously. Now, on the other hand, if your income is stable enough that you could honestly absorb something going wrong for 6 months, if you have clarity on where you want to be for the next 7 to 10 years, and if the qualitative reasons have started to matter more, like the stability of not being asked to move when a landlord decides to sell their property, or the autonomy to make the space genuinely yours, then the case for continuing to rent deserves a much harder look than it might have a year or two ago. In most parts of the GTA right now, the gap between a comparable rent and a mortgage payment has narrowed considerably compared to 2021 and 2022, and that changes the math on both sides of the decision. Now, if you want to run your actual numbers, the affordability calculator in the description uses the real OSFI stress test and shows you both your bank's maximum and your genuine comfort zone price. So you go into any search with accurate expectations rather than a number that surprises you once you start looking seriously. And if you're already pre-approved and actively searching, you're probably asking whether now is actually a good time to buy or whether you should wait a little longer. And here's where the market actually stands. Detached prices in the GTA are down over 11% year over year. Active listings are sitting at over 19,000, nearly 5 times the 2022 peak inventory. And if you've been waiting patiently for a more favorable environment, this is one of the strongest windows you've had in several years. That said, high inventory doesn't mean everything is a deal. The GTA isn't one unified market. It's hundreds of micro markets bundled into a single average that can be genuinely misleading. Well-priced freeholds in strong school zones are still generating real competition, while condos with high investor concentration and weak rental demand are sitting for months. The GTA average figure will not tell you which situation you are actually walking into. So before you write your first offer, 3 things should genuinely be in place. Your pre-approval should be stress tested, meaning you've looked at what that monthly payment actually means for your household if something goes wrong. Second, you should have been studying the sold data in your target area, not just browsing listings, because listing prices are almost never equal to the sold prices, which is what buyers were actually willing to pay. And you should understand how the Ontario offer process works before you're emotionally invested in a specific home. Offer night under time pressure is genuinely the worst moment to encounter deposits, conditions, and signbacks for the first time. I've done a full video on exactly how that process works, and it's linked in the description. If all three of those are genuinely in place, this market gives you more room to negotiate and move thoughtfully than buyers have had in years. Now, this is the scenario that doesn't get nearly enough attention, and it's the one where I see the most confusion. You've owned your home for a few years, your situation has genuinely changed, and you're wondering whether to make a large purchase in this market or not. The mistake most people make is focusing entirely on the price of the home they want to buy without thinking carefully about both sides of the transaction at the same time. And that's where they miss the most important number in the decision, which is what I call the upgrade gap. The upgrade gap is simply the difference between what you sell your current home for and what you need to pay for the next one. The amount you'd need to fund above and beyond your sale proceeds. In a corrected market, yes, your current home is worth less than what it was in 2022, but so is the home you want to buy. The question that actually matters is whether that gap is larger or smaller than it would have been at the peak. Here's a concrete example. At the 2022 peak, let's say your semi-detached might have been worth 1,050,000 and the detached home you had your eye on was 1.6 million, meaning your upgrade gap was around 550,000. Today, that semi might be worth 850,000 and the detached is now closer to 1.3 million, which puts your upgrade gap at 450,000. So you're paying 100,000 less to make that move today than you would have at the peak, even though your own home has also come down in value. That is the calculation most people never run, and when they do, it often changes their entire perspective on whether this is actually a good or bad time to upsize. There are obviously situations where upsizing right now doesn't make sense. If your current property is in a segment that's been hit hard, could be investor condos or properties further away from the GTA, then you'd be selling into weakness while trying to buy into a stronger market, which widens the gap against you. And if your income is genuinely uncertain, taking on a significantly larger mortgage is a real risk regardless of market conditions. But if you have a solid property in a desirable area and the upgrade gap is manageable when you model it with your real numbers and the life reasons for moving are specific and genuine, then this is one of the better windows to upsize that you've seen in a while. Sellers of larger homes are more willing to negotiate today than they were at the peak, and that negotiating leverage on the buy side will not be around indefinitely. To take the guesswork out of this completely, I built the upgrade analyzer that you'll find linked in the description. You enter your current home's expected sale price, your mortgage balance and selling costs, and it calculates your actual net proceeds. Then you model the new home with the purchase price, mortgage rate, taxes and carrying cost, and it shows you the true full monthly cost. You can also model what happens if you kept your current home as a rental instead of selling it. And at the end, it gives you a side-by-side comparison of both paths with a verdict. Run your numbers in it before you make any decisions. It is completely free, so run your numbers in it before you make any decisions. Now, before I wrap up, I want to give you a simple framework that applies regardless of which scenario you're in. The first question is where your financial stability actually stands right now. If your income is stable and you could absorb a difficult month without real panic, then the door to buying or upsizing is open. If it isn't, then building that stability first is the most valuable thing you can do before committing to anything else. The second question is where you genuinely need to be in the next 7 to 10 years. The school zones that matter for your family, the proximity to aging parents, the commute you can realistically sustain over the long run. Real estate works best as a long horizon decision, and the people who buy for the right life reasons almost always feel better about it than those who are trying to time the market. The third question is what your specific math actually looks like when you run it. Not as a general rule of thumb, but your income, your equity or down payment, your target area, and your target property type all put together. The people who run their real numbers consistently arrive at a clearer answer than the people who rely on gut feeling. That's precisely what the tools in the description are there for. If this video gave you clarity on where you sit, that's exactly what I was aiming for. And if you want to go significantly deeper into the complete home buying process in Ontario, I've put together a free 1-hour webinar that covers how to set your real budget before you start looking, how the Ontario offer process actually works, how to stack the FHSA and the home buyer's plan for up to $100,000 tax-free towards your down payment, what closing costs genuinely look like so you're not surprised at the end, and how how to evaluate whether a specific property is actually priced or just appears to be a deal. The link to watch it is in the description below. Both the tools are also in the description: the affordability calculator for renters and first-time buyers, and the sell and upgrade analyzer for homeowners thinking about their next move. They are free and they are there so you don't have to make this decision based on a feeling when you could be basing it on your real numbers. If you found this valuable, then subscribe, because I put out this kind of research-driven content on GTA real estate every single week. And if you know someone who's wrestling with this exact decision right now, share this video with them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.